Fox 13 News Midday starts now with breaking news.
And we do have breaking news on this midday. It's official. Less than 2 hours ago, a landmark U.S. Supreme Court opinion that will overturn Roe v. Wade, the federal right to abortion. This is based on a case out of Mississippi.
That's right. Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization was the case about the constitutionality of a 2018 Mississippi state law that bans most abortions after the first 15 weeks of pregnancy. This is a historic moment where a federal right is being taken away. That's the significance of this. The opinion means that each state will now decide whether abortions are legal in that state. All three Mid-South states have trigger laws that will essentially outlaw abortion in a matter of days or weeks.
Yeah, depending on which state. And Fox 13's Tony Sloan joins us live in the Breaking News Center to break down when those trigger laws take effect in each Mid-South state.
Yeah, that's right. So a lot of people wondering exactly where to go from here, but we do have those trigger laws. So let's focus here in the Mid-South, our three states. In Tennessee, that law would prohibit all abortions except for those that would prevent the death of the mother. Medical providers, they could be charged with a felony for violating that law. And this also includes the day after pill. And this here will go into effect 30 days from today. And in Mississippi, which is the state at the center of this case here, the law states that within 10 days of the state attorney general confirming that Roe has been overturned, abortions are prohibited in that state. Now, there are some exceptions in case of rape or something where it would preserve the mother's life. But over in Arkansas, that law would ban nearly all abortions, except in the case of those life-threatening emergencies. So you can see the commonality there with those three states here in the Mid-South, all of them making sure that if there's life-threatening medical emergencies, there would be an exception. But medical providers who violate that law in Arkansas, they could face up to 10 years in prison, a fine, or even both. But Arkansas, they don't have a timeline right now on when this will go into effect, but we have reached out to the state attorney general for information to find out when. So stay with us as we continue to follow this. But those are the trigger laws here for our three areas in the Mid-South. We're live in the Breaking News Center. I'm Tony Sloan.
Thank you, Tony. And so 26 states are certain or likely to move quickly to ban abortion. And as we said, 13 states, including ours, have the trigger laws, and many are in the South. You can see them highlighted right there.
So where can a woman go if seeking a medical abortion? Well, the closest state to Tennessee allowing abortion is Illinois. And Fox 13's Carolyn Serta joining us live from Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood will continue with the many other services they provide, Carolyn, but if a woman is seeking an abortion, possibly within 30 days or so, can't go to that building.
Yeah, Planned Parenthood here on Poplar. It's one of two clinics that does offer an abortion service to not only people in Memphis, but really across the Mid-South. And as you mentioned, they have said that they're going to continue to offer all the other services that they do provide to women and families here. The same thing with Choices just down the road. In fact, they said that they are opening a new clinic in Illinois, and this is where people seeking an abortion are going to have to go. This is 3 hours north of Memphis, 3 hours north of Nashville, the two major cities in Tennessee, as we just mentioned, which will likely ban abortions after 30 days from now. Where will people have to go? This is where they'll have to go. Carbondale, Illinois, as mentioned, 3 hours north of here, and not just from Tennessee, but really with all of the states surrounding Illinois that will be banning abortions likely, if not immediately, then within the next 30 days or so. This is where people will have to go, travel out of state to get this service. And we know the people that drive along Poplar here, they often see a group of pro-lifers standing outside of this building, just outside of that gate. They're off taking a little break right now, but I did speak with them as this announcement came down just a couple hours ago, and here's what one of them had to tell me.
I prayed for this my whole life, and we're just out here trying to help people have another option and trying to save lives. With that being said, we're just very grateful for this opportunity in our country to see a positive plan put in place.
And as for Planned Parenthood and Choices, again, they say they will continue to offer the services that they can, and also making a call for people to make their voice heard by voting. The election season, because it is now states' rights, states' choices on what to do with abortion, they are calling on people to make their voices heard this election season. Reporting live in Midtown, Carolyn Serta, Fox 13 News.
Carolyn, thank you for that. Look, this case, it's a landmark case, the most important showdown over abortion rights in half a century. So how did we get to this point?
Yeah, Fox 13's Darcy Thomas breaks down the decades-long abortion arguments within the court system and how this landmark case gained momentum right in our backyard.
The U.S. Supreme Court gave women nationwide the right to an abortion nearly 50 years ago. The ruling came down on January 22, 1973. It instantly gave women new options, but it also sparked a series of state laws across the country banning abortions past a certain point. It wasn't until 2018 that a real challenge to the decision took shape. On March 19th, Mississippi passed a law that would ban most abortions after 15 weeks. It only allowed them in certain medical emergencies. Well, that very same day, the state's only abortion clinic, Jackson Women's Health Organization, immediately filed a lawsuit to block the law. Lower courts blocked the Mississippi law in 2 decisions. There was one in late 2018, the other just a year later. In 2020, Mississippi asked the nation's highest court to weigh in. Well, at the time, conservative justices outnumbered liberals 5-4. But during Donald Trump's presidency, the court moved further right. It now has a 6-3 conservative majority. In May of 2021, the Supreme Court agreed to take up the case during their next term. And later that year, justices heard arguments and announced that a ruling would be made in the summer. Now fast forward to 2022. A leaked draft opinion published on May 2nd showed that the Supreme Court was poised to overturn the Roe v. Wade decision. In the studio, Darcy Thomas for Fox 13 News.
Yeah, and since that draft opinion was leaked, as she said on May 2nd, that's what people have been talking about. Will the Supreme Court issue an opinion that would overturn Roe v. Wade? And this morning, just after 9 o'clock, that's exactly what they did. Let's
get to our Washington correspondent, Kirsten Garris in D.C. A lot of people saw this coming after that draft was leaked, Kirsten.
That's right, and it is worth repeating that this is not a federal ban on abortion, but the decision of how to access abortion will vary state by state. So depending on where you live, abortion access will be expanded or limited. Now, again, this case comes straight out of the Mid-South. It's that Mississippi abortion law that bans the procedure after 15 weeks and was passed in 2018 by then Governor Phil Bryant. Now, as we expected, and similar to that draft opinion that came out in May, Justice Samuel Alito wrote the opinion in this case, and he said in part, quote, "Roe was egregiously wrong from the start." As we expected, all 6 conservatives on the court are in agreement with this ruling, saying that the right to an abortion isn't really necessarily in the Constitution, and therefore Roe and Casey, the 2 previous rulings, must be overturned. Now, as we also expected, all 3 of the liberal justices wrote the dissent together, and they wrote in part, quote, "With sorrow for this court, but for the many millions of American women who have today lost a fundamental constitutional protection, we dissent." So 2 very different opinions coming out of this from the justices, again, the conservatives who have decided to uphold that Mississippi case, therefore overturning Roe v. Wade. Moving forward, we talked about those trigger laws earlier today. At least 13 states, including Tennessee, Mississippi, and Arkansas, have passed those trigger law states. So because of this ruling, abortion will be limited. Some places will be banning it completely because of this ruling moving forward. Val, Ernie.
All right, a lot of activity there behind you too this morning. Kirsten, thanks so much. And look, we have showed you live pictures from in front of the Supreme Court building over the last 2 or 3 weeks as people wait for this opinion to come down. It did this morning just after 9 a.m. and there are repercussions.
Yeah, and we've been getting reaction from people, and want to talk now to Karen Nickel, who's an attorney. You've been reading over this opinion from the High Court. Karen, what's your impression of it?
Well, I think that you have to look at it as something that's very historic. They are overturning 50 years of precedent, not only at the United States, but also at the Tennessee Supreme Court.
And it essentially hands this decision to the states and said, you know what, we're washing our hands of it as a federal government. Each state and their citizens can decide. Is there precedent for that?
Well, there is. They certainly have done this before where they say, no, this is an issue of states' rights. But whether they have done this and overturned a previous Supreme Court precedent, it has been a long time since a Supreme Court has looked back and said, no, they were wrong before. And that's what this Supreme Court is doing.
Yeah, usually they honor that.
Yeah, and not only did they say the High Court was wrong on Roe, they said it was egregious from the beginning. I think that was the word. What were your thoughts about that language?
Well, understand there is a legal precedent for following the rulings of previous Supreme Court cases. So there are Supreme Court justices who have certainly disagreed with Roe in the past, but they have honored the concept of following previous precedent in Supreme Court cases and followed that precedent of Roe. But now they're just saying, no, we're not going to follow the precedent. It was egregiously wrong. That's the first time we've had that kind of language come out of a Supreme Court.
Is there an argument, because the justices said in their opinion, no such right to abortion is protected by the Constitution? Is there an argument that there is?
Of course there is. If you read the Roe decision, it sets out why that is. There are a lot of protections that we follow in the Supreme Court that aren't specifically spelled out in the Constitution. The Constitution's not a law. It is an umbrella of general rights given to citizens, and that has been subject to interpretation all throughout history. So now they're saying, no, we are going to strictly construe that and not grant these additional rights, which may have overflow into other situations.
Yeah, it's a historic decision. I guess we kind of knew it was coming when that draft was leaked, what, a month ago or so? Right. But still a little shock to the system for a lot of people.
A lot of legal minds will be talking about this for a long time.
There's no doubt. I think we all knew a little bit it was coming when the appointments came down from Trump and we saw where the court was headed politically, but still previous very conservative justices have still granted that decision making to previous Supreme Court rulings and followed that precedent. This Supreme Court has really gone the opposite direction and said, no, we're going to make our own decisions and ignore that history.
Is there an argument that it's time for the Constitution to be revamped, updated? Think about what was not even around, computers and such, when it was created by our founding fathers.
Well, there's certainly understand the Constitution is special, and that's part of what makes this country special, is that we have an overriding protection even though it might not be popular. And that's what the Constitution is. Other countries around the world want that. So we have to protect that. But also, yes, constitutions can be amended. We've amended our own Constitution, but that takes an overwhelming majority of the country. And whether politically that could happen at this point is very questionable.
Yeah. Karen Nichols, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, more to come on this historic moment in our history. We're going to keep you updated on air and online as we get new information every minute.
And we're going to have a live updates after this, and also interviews. We're going to talk to a constitutional law expert about this decision that overrules Roe v. Wade. We'll be right back.